Welcome to the Relatable Oklahoma Realtors Podcast, the show that sets out to demystify the world of real estate. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, investor, or realtor with years of experience, this is where real estate is discussed and explained. Join me now for our hosts, Stacy and Burl Stricker.
Thanks
well,
for
Sarah,
having
we
me.
appreciate you being on the podcast today. And yes, this is Stacy, Sarah. So the how Sarah and I met is that she brought, I believe it's your mother and your daughters to the ranch. That's been a few years ago, hasn't it? I was trying to figure out how long ago that's been.
Well, I haven't, because it was for my 40th birthday. So, I remember it quite well.
Oh,
How fun.
Stacy, you got her daughters. Oh my gosh, like the cutest little girls.
Yeah. How old are your girls?
Well, so I had two of them at that time. And so now they are 11, 8, and 4. But at that time, the little one was too little to like really enjoy it. Although I think Burl likes kids, but she's a handful. As a matter of fact, when I was at, we breed bulldogs. And then when I was at the vet the other day, I had her take her with me because I also homeschool, and she just runs wild like a feral squirrel or something. And I just do my best to anyway, I turn around and she's standing on the dog scale. And I'm like, just doing the mom thing, like, get off of that. But I do like a triple take, like literally like whip my head back, because she's 4 years old and she's 72.4 pounds. And I was just like,
wow,
stunned. I was like, I knew she's heavy because she crushes me. But I remember telling my husband just the week before, I was like, man, I must be getting older because I can barely pick her up and carry her.
The sweetest, the very sweet girls.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us, like, you are a realtor. Tell us how you got into real estate and what made you pursue that career.
Boy, it was just hate at first sight. I'll tell you that. Eleanor was a baby, and I was working as a project manager for a large sign company. And as a matter of fact, I was doing like very large hospital sign packages.
What market are you in? Let's back up.
So I'm in Oklahoma City and all the surrounding metro. And I have been doing this for 12 years, roughly.
Okay.
But I was a project manager for a large sign company doing large wayfinding, multi-million-dollar sign packages. And I had my daughter, and Justin and I were sending her to like daycare, and we had processed probably in 8 months, three daycare providers. And I was just like, man, I make really good money, but this really stinks. I don't know what I'm going to do, because we were paying quite a bit for a 5-star facility, but the lady who was in charge of her class had like Daddy's Angel tattoo, like tattooed across her neck. And I was just like, this is just rough. So I decided to go to a one income family, which was really hard. And I didn't know how we were going to make it. And I guess like all things are in God's time. But I had this friend who also I did signs for. He was a realtor, and he was like, you know what? Do my social media marketing, do my advertising. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. But just so you know, I never, ever, ever want to do real estate. I said, you guys are crazy. You guys are shysters. I will work for you because I like you, but there's no way I will ever do real estate. And then 12 years later, my husband has quit his job, and we're both like solely relying on real estate.
That is awesome. But, kind of hearing what you're saying, like, you didn't want to do the daycare. Like, that's what I love about real estate, is that it gave me so much flexibility with my girls.
Yeah. So when you started, were you worried? I was so worried. I was like hiding in closets and like shushing them, doing like the snapping behind me, like all the time.
In the car constantly, shh, there's a work call coming in. Everyone be quiet. Well, my youngest, when I got divorced, she was 2. She's not going to be quiet, and we're in Western Oklahoma. So it was fine. We're population 12,000 to like take our kids with us, in Oklahoma City. That's probably not the norm.
Well, it's not, but I at some point, probably 4 or 5 years into it, because I had my second one and a third one, I was just like, you know what? Deal with it. Don't deal with it. This is
Yeah.
who I am. And actually, I don't know what all that fear was about. And if I have to tell any mom doing real estate, you never apologize for your children. They are people
Yeah.
too, and you do not have to apologize for choosing to be with them.
Right. Oh, and then calls like at basketball games, like, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna have to call you back. I can't hear you. I'm in a game or, whatever.
So this is funny that you should mention that, because a lot of times, and William and I, my cousin slash partner, we always laugh because it's always seems like the new agents are like, I'm on a showing, or I'm in a closing, and you're like, are you though? Are you really
No,
though?
because you wouldn't answer your phone if you are. That'd be rude. No, and I always tell
Right?
like
Like
our new
it's a
agents that come on, like, you know, just be real, be who you are. And
Mhm.
I remember going like one of our conventions, we had Jared James there. I don't know if you've ever heard him speak. He's like, be you, like, when you do videos, if you want to drink wine in your videos, drink wine. Like, don't fake who you are. Well, it's the same thing. If you can't get to answer a phone call or whatever, be honest about it. You don't have to say exactly what you're doing. Like, I have another commitment. I can't show you right now, or I can't talk right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like if you're I heard something the other day. I can't remember if it's like a meme or something, but it really resonated. And I think it was a TikTok. And the guy was saying that if everybody likes you and you get along well with everybody, and I guess Burl is like that, because you're married to him, but everybody
Nothing's
else,
amazing.
if everybody likes you and you have no enemies, and then you're not being 100% genuine, because not everybody is going to appreciate your stage in life, your status, that sort of thing. So if they want a different type of realtor, then that's fine, because I find in the end it's somebody I probably don't want to work with anyway.
Right. Yeah, everybody's not the right fit. That's very well said. I like that.
Have you ever
Yes.
had to try to fire anybody, Stacy?
Yes.
What was that like?
That's exactly what I said. I don't think we're the right fit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I get so much more dramatic about it. So I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Right.
So Sarah, you are independent. You guys have your own firm. Is that correct?
That's right. I
So
started
you're
out
not
with
associated with any firm or any
Franchise.
franchise or
no,
anything.
no. I went totally independent. I started out with a big box brokerage. I even taught classes there, and then I went to a flat fee, like no nonsense, like brokerage for years, which I loved. But she moved, and then I went hyper local for a few years, and I thought, why am I and why am I paying anybody else for, like, no, they're not giving me any leads. They're doing nothing for me. And I think it's just stems from my serious lack of respect of authority that I've had since I was like 9. So I just do it myself.
I can
That's
relate to that.
interesting.
I can relate to that. I can. I think that part of that independence is like, I mean, there's got to be some negative too, but about not being associated with, a franchise. What do you think the negative is?
You
Do you-
you ever pull up to a sign before you are in real estate and you were like, oh my gosh, that's not KW, that's not,
Yeah.
No, a
whatever.
buyer
And
doesn't see that.
and then yeah, choose not to work with them because it's a certain franchise. I think it solely depends on, and this is what I tell my agents. My goal for them is to eventually be their own broker. I never want to hold them back from whatever it is they want to do. And so, even when we set up our emails, because we have company emails, everything is forwarded to their personal emails. Everything is branded in their name with their face on it, because they are selling themselves and they're building a legacy, not for me, but they're building a legacy for their families.
Yeah. How many people do you have on your team?
We have 13. I don't really, I mean, I guess with me, we have 13. We just opened up 2 offices. So we had like this really nice Edmond big office, and we made it through COVID. It was like I had a classroom and all this. And I mean, it was just like crickets. Nobody ever came in. Um, And we did most everything virtually. So what we've done is we decided not to renew our lease and we went a different direction. We went two different locations so we can get more marketing and advertising out using two different locations, i.e. like Google reviews, those sort of things. And then I have another agent that's becoming a broker so we can open our third location to the south.
That's smart. I like that. That's really smart to get the
And then,
Google.
so essentially, they're all small satellite offices. So we're
Yeah.
going to be paying the same amount of rent and utilities for three offices instead of one.
One big. So do you still have an office in Edmond and you just went smaller, or do you go like North Oklahoma City?
We went like off the Broadway extension. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's
Yeah.
like North Oklahoma City / Edmond. And the
Yeah.
reason we selected that one is so they could get on and off the highway quickly. So it's just like
Right.
on and off. So you're not having to drive through the Edmond traffic.
Yeah. Edmond traffic is terrible. I actually used to live there and manage property there years ago.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you were a property manager?
Oh, I did that for 11 years before I got on this other side. This side's much better.
You
Now,
think?
do you do property management too, Sarah?
Yeah, I do,
Ugh.
but probably not. I actually started out doing vacation rental, short-term rental management, and I kind of have become like unintendingly like the go-to for questions about vacation rental. I was doing it before doing that was cool. Like nobody was doing that
Before like
except us.
Airbnbs and all of that. So did you
Yes,
do
and
vacation rentals in Oklahoma?
yeah, so we do third party management for vacation rentals, and I built a whole business out of it. And so I started doing that 5 years ago. And it has, I mean, if you ever want to do a real podcast on it, I got a lot to say about that. But there has been a complete oversaturation in the market of that. So what we're seeing now is most people are selling their short-term rentals unless it is a very specific location with specific amenities. Otherwise, they're going back to long-term rentals. So there's a lot to know about it. I've done a lot of, learning the hard way and like a baptism of fire sort of thing. But I've been doing it for 5 years. I have
Wow.
9 cleaners that work for me or make readies, and then I have a staff of 2 full-time people on that side for the short-term vacation rentals.
Wow. So, because most people, if they're not from Oklahoma, they would probably say vacation in Oklahoma. So,
I
where are
would
your
say that,
properties?
and I'm from Oklahoma.
Right. So, I'm really curious about your vacation rentals. Like, where in Oklahoma are they?
Okay, so we have I think we have like 10 in Guthrie now, which is there we have the rodeo, we have ranches, we have a lot of weddings, and we have a lot of tourism here. And then there's a lot in Oklahoma City and just the same weddings, that sort of thing, events, you know, I guess we can do like call them midterm rentals if they're here with like the oil field, we can do those, which kind of fall under that. So there is a lot of travel, maybe not a lot of quote unquote tourism, but there's a lot of travel.
Right.
I'm
That's interesting.
curious to change direction a little bit. What is the dynamics with your firm? Like you talked about a partner, so is it your husband's your partner? So tell us the dynamics of your firm.
Oh gosh, we are a family. We started out as a family business. So it started out with me, my mother, who's been in real estate. She started after she retired. So she's been doing it for 8 or 9 years now. And she started out doing it just to kind of like support me. And then there's William. So my mother has a background in accounting and business and CPA sort of stuff. So she's still licensed and she can go show. She shows for our realtors when they go on vacation and that sort of thing. But she does all of the bookkeeping and gets that all ready, and then does auditing for the property management. And then William, he's the broker over our new office, but who God only knows what he's doing. I want any one given time. Who knows where William is. We actually have a hashtag that says where's William, because he
That's
just
funny.
kind of does his own thing and then he just circles back around. But he's very, like, he's a bachelor, he's very independent, and so he's circling a different kind of like market and demographic. So he's in sales. But he also has been fully trained on property management and vacation rental management. So he can assist in like backing that up. And then there's me, of course, that, I'm the owner and the broker. And we have all of our agents under just me, so he has less liability. Let's see here. I hired a realtor who's working on a learning management system. That's what she does, her full time, but she's also a realtor. So we are working on a finishing school. I don't know if you guys would be interested in this, but this is kind of fun. We're working on a real estate finishing school. So there's a lot of schools out there for post licensing, which just feels like it's the same stuff as when you got your licensing. This is more like, okay, how to show a property. What's the etiquette of showing a property? Where do you park? What's the etiquette of feedback? What do you say? What do you not say? So everything about actually being a realtor and how to be a realtor finishing school. And that will be an online learning system. So for the smaller brokerages, or even the independent agents that want to actually like get a baptism of fire, hit the ground running, and not have to wait 3 or 4 or 5 months or a year to figure this out themselves. That's what that's going to be for.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Like we find that, to bring someone new on, like it's a lot of work to mentor and teach all that. Like that's fantastic that you have something in-house to
That sounds
do
like
that.
one of the ways you support like maybe a new agent. What other ways do you feel like that you guys support like a new agent that's coming to work for you guys?
Well, honestly, like I was a firm believer, and probably you too, that there would be better agents if they wouldn't get priced out of the market so quickly. For instance, I think that, sometimes turds always float to the top, they just seem to make it. So I wanted to mentor them. So I would mentor 2 a quarter. And that was as much as I could commit to. And I would do their transactions with them. They would follow me. I had a 2-day training session where I would basically teach them everything about how to be a realtor. And then I would work their transactions with them up to like 5 until they fully got it. And I would do it for free. Like I wouldn't charge them a mentor fee, just the flat fee that we charge the brokerage. But I think this year, because I've put so much time and effort into that over the last like 4.5, 5 years, I think this year I'm not going to bring on any new agents, and I'm just going to work on developing the ones that I have, because the market is so hard. I feel like I spend more time talking people out of doing real estate than I do telling them that they should do it. And maybe that's wrong, but I'm just like, oh, I don't know. And not to squash anybody's dreams, but it's not what people think it is. And
Right.
I think that sometimes they need to hear the truth.
You're right. Like we've, brought people on and, learned the hard way that they maybe weren't the right fit. And you've invested a lot of time in mentoring them, and and then you realize a year later when their fees and dues come up again, they're like, I can't afford this. I had no idea. And they kind of start to spiral out. And, it's just, it gets frustrating as the owner broker side.
It is extremely frustrating, and I've spent a lot of time and resources because I paid for their pictures, like I did the
Yes.
whole
Like their
thing.
headshots and yes,
Like
we do
just the
too.
whole thing. And then I didn't feel like that level of commitment, like they weren't matching what I was giving. And I mean, maybe I'm just burnt out on it. So if I find the right one, and I have some really good ones now, but I had to go through some people that just weren't ready. And so what I like to tell them is like what I've actually done. I've actually negotiated deals while giving birth. I was showing properties 2 days after I had Siren. then what I say is I'm not any more attractive. I'm not any smarter, definitely maybe less smart than some people. I'm not any better overall at one thing than anybody else. But what I did recognize from the beginning is that I could outwork 100% of the time everybody. And if they're not answering their phone, I'm answering my phone. And that was made the difference, is
You
that
think that's
you
the
just have
biggest
to
thing?
outwork your competition and not worry
Yeah.
about what's going on.
That's funny. My business partner, Peyton, I have a partner and we've talked about that before, that are just out hustle.
Mhm.
That's
Okay.
exactly it.
Do you think that's the number one thing, Sarah? Is like hustle? Is that kind of what you look for in a new person, and like whether you're going to make it or not? What would you say?
Yes, I do. I think that they have to be hungry. Whatever. I mean, I don't, people are like, what's your why? What's your why? What's your why?
Yeah.
Well, that's all well and good, but a lot of people aren't honest about what their why is. For instance, I could say that my why is my family because that's what people like to hear, or like that's what I like to tell myself. I do it for my family. I do it for my family. I don't do it for my family. I do it because I'm a control freak. I don't like to lose and I don't know when to stop. And I, the motivation of failure is my why, not the motivation of success or providing. And
Yeah.
I think you have to truly be honest with yourself for that to work about what really is your why.
I really like that. Like I've always said, and not to sound greedy, but like I am motivated by the dollar. And when I ended up divorced with 2 kids, heck yeah, that motivated me a
Right?
lot more. Granted, I love helping people and I've liked this industry because it's not like you sit behind a desk all day, and like I really do like helping people and it's fun.
Yes. I can sense that about you just from your post. And I mean, I don't know you personally, but I think I've done this long enough to know who genuinely cares and who's in it
Yeah.
just for the money. And that's not you.
Yeah.
But
But you
yeah,
want to be able to provide for your family. That's
you
where
do.
that motivation comes from.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Sarah, you hear a lot of people ask about, like they ask us a lot about, I hear the question about how's the market? And you mentioned it earlier. And I do think there's a little difference between where we're at. What we've noticed or what I've noticed in Western Oklahoma is that when the market swings high or swings low, Western Oklahoma seems to kind of stay more stable. Like, like land prices, for example, they
Does it
don't,
really? Even with
it
the oil
seems to
field?
be. It seems to,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, even with the big, because we really almost oil field's non-existent right now at this moment. It's picking up. So I was
Mhm.
curious about your market and how you feel like where we are today.
I feel like, and this is not going to be a popular answer, but this is going to be a truthful one. If you read the economics that's going on, like you read like columns from every financial advisor, they're going to tell you, you're going to hear arguments for both sides. And we're not in a recession. We are in a recession. Like, this is not going to affect the housing market. It is going to affect the housing market. I think, because I get this question a lot, anybody that tells you right now what's going to happen or what is happening is like with all, with 100% certainty is not being truthful, because we are in unprecedented times and we don't know what's going around the bend. Sure, we can draw off of our experience, but this isn't even like it's 2008. This is totally different than 2008. So for me to tell you what's going to happen in January, I don't know. So when people ask me, should I list my house now or should I wait until the spring? I always say that we don't know what's coming around the bend. We could not have predicted COVID and the lockdowns, and we couldn't have predicted the moratorium and how that affected, and the travel restrictions. We don't know what's around the corner. And I think now I tell my clients, just don't wait. Do what you think you want to do now, and we will navigate this uncharted territory as best as we can.
That's a very true and honest. I like that. Yeah.
Sure.
Because I do feel like buyers come out when they see the right house. So your house could be the right house.
hmm
Yeah.
It could be. Why wait? If you don't get
Yeah.
any showings, you're no worse for wear, and your
Right.
house is clean.
I agree. Well, and I feel like, when interest rates like right now, they've gone up, it's like a shock factor. You know, the government didn't do us any favor keeping them low for so long. It was great, but that's not the normal. 3% was not the normal. So where they are now is more of the norm, but everyone's still in shock mode. So I kind of feel like once that levels out, then buyers will be back out.
Don't
But
you feel like a little bit though, and I don't know if it was different there, but I do feel like buyers were just getting priced out. They lost a lot of faith in realtors, even though I don't fault the realtors. They were losing out on houses left and right. They're getting discouraged and tired. They were signing leases because they just gave up. So I think we lost a lot of our buyer pool, like the first time home buyer specifically, because they just lost faith in their ability to buy a house.
yeah,
And I think that eventually that will subside. Their leases will end. And hopefully, if I'm right, and I don't know if I'm right, but hopefully, if I'm right, when these leases end in midsummer, because that's when they were just gave up, that
right.
we'll see the influx again.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because they were frustrated. Because we do some in your market, and that definitely was the case where they were making, and it was definitely more in your market than ours, making offers well over asking price and not getting them. Or if they had an FHA loan, they did not have a chance. They had to be conventional or cash. We would
Right.
see more of that. If you're VA, no,
And
sadly.
I mean, I don't know how you felt about it, but the new clauses that we had, and I know it's not new, but we really never did it before, but the escalation clauses, I was just like,
Yes.
I was telling my buyers, and I know that I put some of them on ice, and I did that intentionally. They didn't buy anything. I probably could have sold a lot more. I think I sold like close to 70 houses last year, but I could have probably done a lot more.
Wow.
But I was just putting a lot of people on ice because I'm like, you will absolutely hate me next year if you pay 20,000, 30,000, 40,000
Yeah.
over asking. And they're like, well, the interest rates are rising. I'm like, don't get scared about that. You're not married to an interest rate. You're dating it. So,
Exactly. You can
I like that.
refinance
I like
later.
that.
mhm,
Yes. Yeah.
mhm.
I mean, I did the same thing. My first house was at 7.25, and you just refinance later.
Right, you do, and you're still not paying somebody else's mortgage. I know that, we're like a generation, I don't know. They call me a or millennial because I'm an 80s. Like I was born 1980, but I won't even acknowledge that. So let's just say Gen But our parents were like 13%, like,
Yes.
and they were happy to do it. And I know the cost of living is different and all this, but
Yeah.
it's just people have to understand this is the new norm, and home ownership is always, always, always going to be better if you're willing to own it for at least 2 years than renting. Always.
Burl,
Hands
did
down.
you hear
I
her?
heard her. I heard her.
Burl and I have this debate every once in a
We
while. So
do.
I
We
really
debate
like
over
that
this.
he heard that from somebody else.
I think that my point is that sometimes renting's the right thing. And you actually said it. You said that you said, hey, you told them to wait. You
Mhm.
told them to wait. And I think that renting in some cases is absolutely the right thing to
This
do.
is true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if they're paying, over market value for houses, then that's just a bad. Everything boils down to, is this, and maybe that's part of our job, you guys. Is like we just look at it analytically and say, is this a good business decision?
Right.
All my first time home buyers, and I'm sure the same way, this is not your forever home. This is your investment home to buy your forever home. So you're
Yeah.
not going to get your parents' house at 21.
No. Well, and
I
there's
think they expect that though.
they
It's so
do.
crazy.
They
They
do.
do. Like whether you're talking about vehicles or whether you're talking about, house, it's like I look at people that are in their 20s and they own these very expensive houses or vehicles, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I see all the trouble that goes with it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how they got approved for those things, I have no clue. It's crazy to me.
Oh, it's super easy. But real estate is bought on emotions. So they get so excited, especially when they're first time home buyers. They go in that house. So I do think it's important that we help them. I always feel like when I'm showing, I'm like, you be honest with me. You're not hurting my feelings. You tell me what you like and don't like. Because when you come back to me to sell it, we need to be sure we can sell it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because whatever you don't like, that's going to be the next buyer's issue, more than likely.
Sarah, have you personally done any property investment?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What kind? What kind do
Yeah,
you
so
want
I'm
to know
just
about?
curious what you've done and what you've been interested in. Like, for example, you might have seen this, but Stacy and I are doing a flip house right now.
Yeah, I'm
And
watching you
so,
guys.
yeah, so we bought a very low price house that was in kind of depressed area, and we were
Wasn't
curious.
it a completely different state?
No, it's
No,
here.
it's here.
Oh,
It's
is
here
it?
in
For
Oak
some reason,
City.
I thought it was like in Arkansas or something.
No.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was curious what property investment stuff you've done and what you're interested in and what worked and what didn't work with you.
Why you want to buy a house together, guys?
Possibly.
So I've been flipping homes for 8 years. We specialize in, my husband hates it, but we specialize in taking them down to the studs, historic homes. And we tried to do in the beginning, we tried to do one a year, then we try to do 2 a year. Our goal this year is to do one a quarter. And then we want our spread to be at least 30 to 40,000, if not more, just to get that quarterly bump. Our goal is this year is to take that money and then continue using it for the Burr method, which I'm sure you're familiar. Do you guys do the Burr method?
No. Tell us about that.
Okay. So if you listen to a podcast, which is great, it's called Bigger Pockets. They do the Burr method, and I'll send you a book.
I don't mean to laugh, but we hear this the last 3 podcasts.
Yes.
So basically it's buy, renovate, rent, repeat. That's what Burr stands for. And so how they basically do it, and this is like anybody that you see that's truly wealthy, usually it has like holds, long-term holds. And so what they do is they buy one for below market value. They make sure that they are all in with repairs at 70% of the ARV. And then they will finance it for zero down because a commercial loan will finance it for zero down as long as you have 30% equity in the house. So if you're all in for like say the house is worth 100,000, if you're all in for 70,000, they'll finance it and you won't have to pay any money. Actually, I've seen my investors and I get money back at closing for these. And then you renovate it, you change your loan with your loan officer to a long-term hold, and then you go to the next one and you do the same thing and you continue on and you build a portfolio. The idea is that when you sit down, and there's a little science to this, but when you sit down and you do your planning for retirement, you say, okay, how much passive income do I want? If you want, say, $20,000 a month in passive income, then you look at your rentals, you look at your mortgages at that point, and you decide how many doors you want. How many doors do you need to get $20,000 passive income when all bills are paid? And then you start to acquire them. For instance, if I want to make that, I would, because I got started late, I would need to acquire 12 properties a year for the next 10 years. And then I will have 20 at retirement, which would be like 60. I will have $20,000 in passive income every month.
Wow. I love it. So the podcast that you really got that information, what was it called again?
It's called Bigger Pockets, and
Bigger
there's a
Pockets.
book. I will mail it to you because I have several copies. I give it to
Look
my
at you.
agents. Mhm.
Yeah, I love it.
And so when I take my agents on, the idea is there's a natural progression to real estate, and I'm sure you've seen this, where you start out as an agent, and then usually you'll build a team. If you don't build a team, you'll go broker. But then what you'll see a lot of times are that they'll become investors, they'll become builders, and then developers of land. That's usually the progression, but they always should get to the point when you are taking your agents on, you should be teaching them how to use real estate as an investment tool. Because if you're going to stay in sales for 20 years, God bless you, because I don't know how you could do it. It's hard. People are mean. I cry a lot. I overeat a lot. But the goal here is I'm building to a place where I can walk away and I am making money and I don't have to be there to do it.
Yeah.
I think that really goes to a question that I was very curious about, and I think you answered some of it, which is like, where do you want to go in the next 5 years with your business? And I think, in other words, people could say, okay, we're going to expand, we're going to open several different offices. Where do you see yourself going in like the next 5 years business wise?
I would like to build for me, I would like to build a way for me to back out of real estate actively from sales. I would love to be behind the scenes. We have plans. I'm actually meeting my commercial money guy today, but we have plans to buy acreage and build small, affordable, and I mean like small, affordable, brand new construction homes that that are anywhere between $130,000 $150,000 all in. And if we can't, part of it is to sell it. So to sell enough that we make enough profit that all of our land that we had, all of our developments for this area, for this neighborhood, it's all paid for. It's all paid back. And then to rent out the rest, where we completely own them 100%. So I would hope to have at least 60 of these small homes in these communities that I'm just renting, and I can hire a property manager and I can go be with my family and retire at 55, 50.
Love it.
That's
55.
awesome.
It almost sounds like we have been talking about, that's why we did this particular flip house, and we think it's in the price range of like a first time home buyers,
Like we need
price
some
range,
affordable
like
homes
the
too.
$100,000
Yeah.
kind of in that range. And we
Mhm.
feel like that's kind of where the market's at right now. It's like those right in that 100,000, and it sounds like the homes you're talking about are in that range too. Do you see that that's where we're at as a market right now?
I do. I don't know about you guys, but everything that I read, a lot of people get down on the Gen Z crowd, the or the younger millennials. But here's the thing, research has shown that they're having less kids. And even though they're in more debt because they're more educated from a financial or not from an institution, they're traditionally educated better. Their values seem to be set different where they want to live, and I'm sure you've seen it where they're like quiet quitting. They want to live a life of leverage, and from what I see, they are wiser about their finances when it comes to everything but education. And so they're willing to live with less to experience more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think, every generation like talks about the young generation negatively. You hear that a lot, like they're not as smart as us basically, or but I think that I look at it different, that it's not that they're not as smart or they're not doing things right, but it's just different. And I think part of it is they learn from us, they learn from our mistakes.
I agree.
They say we want to do it differently,
Yeah,
that's what
they've seen their parents work 7 days a week all the time. And I think that in the technological, like the age that we're at, it is possible to make a living and not have to work 60, 70 hours a week. I think they're very wise in that. And I hope that they follow through with it. I hope that they can actually create an existence where they don't live to work, they work to live.
Well,
Yeah.
and you saw this especially with COVID, people traveling with RVs. I think that there is this idea of like simpler life. I think that you see it. It's like, and I think it's a great thing because it's a good reminder for like me too. It's like, it's easy to just go out there for the money or go out there and just in search of constantly in search of something. But that simpler life where you're not having to, you can just enjoy your marriage, enjoy your kids, just enjoy. and not worry so much about, the stress of just trying to attain more. And I think that simpler lifestyle came out of COVID. That's what I saw.
I agree. I think if you're looking at like silver lining, you guys, I know that there was a lot of bad for COVID, but for me personally, just I can speak for myself, it made me realize the fragility of life and how temporary all this is. You always just kind of assume tomorrow's going to be there. And it just made you like it forced us all to slow down to reflect on what we're really living in and what we're really doing. And I feel like there was a positive from COVID. Maybe that's why everybody's like really struggling with mental health is they just don't know what to do with all of what we were taught for so long growing up. This is the way it is. And then we were faced with a total different reality.
I think that's so true.
Yeah, it is true. For
Yeah.
Sure. What, we jokingly and we talked about is like, you see a lot of gimmicky stuff with realtors. We saw a sign in Lawton, that just very gimmicky. And it's almost like you think about like if you travel and you see all the billboards for like lawyers and, personal injury. And sometimes I think that it gives realtors a bad name. It's just, it's like you don't trust them. You put them in line with lawyers. So what's your thoughts on all the gimmicks? And, I've watched your stuff, obviously, on social media. And to me, and that's what I was telling Stacy, to me, not only having met you, but also looking at your post, you seem very down to earth and real. And, that's the way I look at your post. And so what's your thoughts on that marketing technique?
Like the one gimmick we were really talking about was if your house doesn't sell in 59 days, we'll buy it back.
Yeah, well, that's the one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those.
I know who that is. Uh, you know, I feel like with gimmicks, there becomes a mistrust, right? Like everybody's been sold something that they fell for a gimmick. And so when you start a relationship with a gimmick, it's almost feel like you're starting from a ground of like mistrust. Like they understand that that they are a transaction or they're this, they're a means to an end. But boy, I mean, I can get gimmicky too. It's hard because we're not, I mean, we're just people. We're not coming straight out of like marketing school. We're just trying to figure out what works. But boy, there's some doozies of gimmicks, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we've seen them in our market too, and they don't work.
Yeah.
They don't.
Not long term. They might get the few,
Yeah.
but long term.
Right. I agree.
What numbers, like when you look at like financial indicators, or not just financial, but you look at indicators for your firm, what is an indicator that you focus on? Like, for example, you might say number of properties that are listed, number of properties that are sold. I mean, those are some examples that I can think of. What are some big indicators for you and your business to make that you watch constantly?
Really, I watch their personal goals. So we have quarterly meetings, and we set goals for each realtor, and then I personally just watch their own goals because what my level of success and what somebody else's level of success or what they deem success, if I don't sell, $8 million to $10 million a year in sales, then I feel like I'm not successful. But for say Megan, who has another job and she sells real estate to send her kid to private school, and she's just hoping to make one sale a month to cover that. That's her idea of success. So I can't impose my ideas of what I think that they should be doing. I let them decide, and then I try to hold them accountable based on that. But if you're talking about straight indicators, as far as if we're doing well or not, it would be reviews. Because it's not how many at the end of the day, it's how well you did.
Yeah.
At doing that.
Yeah, that really is. So so you said your husband, he's not in real estate.
Oh gosh, no.
No.
I don't. He's a general contractor, so he has done all of our flips and
okay. So he's used to the industry. So I found like it was really important. So for like a really long time, for like over 10 years, it was just me alone. So I found pretty quickly, actually last year at our Christmas party, that when we bring on a new agent, I need to like visit with their spouse as well. Like they don't realize.
I should do that. That's a good idea.
It just was a huge indicator. So one of our agents that came on, I know I shouldn't say agent, but anyway, she is just killed it, was working, 90 to nothing, answering her phone at all hours. And Peyton, my business partner, who's married and has 4 kids, is, very aware of her schedule and her time with her family, where I had no schedule. She looked at them and said, Jake, how was it working out with Shar? How do you feel about it? And he and a couple other husbands in the room all went, ugh. And I just was like, wow. I couldn't believe the husband's reactions, because they had all of the wives before had been like maybe in banking or something where they had set hours, and how it had affected them changing into this industry. So I was like, oh, well, maybe when we go to dinner, when we're talking to someone new, we invite the husband and just kind of give them a pre-warning, like this is a big change, not just for her, but for, you as well and your family. So
that's very wise.
I was shocked.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I haven't ever asked that question. But I'm not surprised. And poor Justin, I mean, I work all the time.
But
And
if he's independent, he's used to doing his own thing too.
Yeah. So yeah, it's rough on my children, because I mean, like I said, if I'm not answering my phone, somebody else will. And there is nothing that hurts more, I think, professionally, than having a client use somebody else because they quote unquote couldn't get a hold of you, or they just thought you were busy. I mean, the loyalty factor alone,
it's not
in
there.
real estate.
No.
You find loyal clients. Oof.
Oh yeah. Well, Burl got someone that he just picked up last week. And what did she say to you? I mean, that's a perfect example.
Yeah. And she was talking about, because I guess she called in, whoever the realtor of the house was, that's who she called. And then I was one of the ones she called. And so I returned her call, and I was the only one that returned her call, but she was going to maybe go with 10 different realtors, that's how it would have ended up. And yet, because I returned her call, she was like, "Oh, you're my person." So,
but she was initially working with a friend, right? Yeah, that part.
Working with a friend initially,
and said that friend had a sick child or something, and she wasn't available all the time, and
I mean, it's kind of sad because obviously there was something really going on with her kid, but
right.
It's just, but you're right, the loyalty thing is a huge deal.
So. Yeah. I don't know, but said, that I don't have time for that basically. And I need someone that's available.
Yeah.
So
do you guys ever show, other realtors your listing? Like, how do you feel about that? Because you're rural. So I imagine sometimes somebody doesn't want to drive all the way out there.
Oh, show it for
So
them.
No, like, so someone from Oklahoma City calls and says, hey, will you show my client? I did that one time, and I did all of the work and they sold it. So I will not do it again. And she didn't even come to the closing. I did every bit of it. So now I'm like, no, I'll take a referral. So.
Right. So I feel like also how I pose it, because, sometimes you'll see on these realtor forums that, well, I do it for my seller because, I want to get it sold. For me, I feel like, and this is what I tell my agents, like it or not, we don't show for other realtors because it's a liability. We represent the seller, and I'm going to do what I need to do for the seller. And unless I have like dual agency, or, I'm working in like a transactional way, then it's just a liability on my part. Who's to say that buyer won't say that I said something, or my agent said something while I was showing, and then somebody else, writes it up, and then how does that look? So I just won't do it. And I don't like lazy realtors. If you want X percent, then you work for it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I agree. I mean, especially, when the market was hot, people are moving in to the state and wanting to look all over. As you know, they didn't know where in the state. They just knew Oklahoma was reasonable.
Mhm.
We were getting that a lot. And we were telling everyone in our office, like, no, you say I'll do it for a referral. I'll take that
Mhm.
referral. But we're not
Mhm.
going to just show because it's our listing, someone else's buyer.
Mhm.
So
Sarah, we very much appreciate you being on. Tell people listening how they can get in touch with you, and just so how they can maybe follow you, look at your, be able to know more about you. What's that?
Well, the best way to get a hold of me probably is through any of the socials. You can just search Sarah Mathis on Facebook, Instagram, Milk and Honey Realty. Google it. You're going to pull up our reviews. You're going to pull up our socials, our YouTube channel. We don't have a podcast because we're not super cool like Stacy and Burl, but
we're just
but
started.
We're just starting.
well,
You can be
I
cool,
think
I
it's
guess.
going to be great. But you just Google Sarah Mathis, and you will find me. I promise you.
And what's
Great.
the name of your office?
Milk and Honey Realty.
That's
And then we
right.
have Milk and Honey
Yes.
Realty Provincial.
I love
That's
it.
great. All right. So before we go,
Oh my gosh, I didn't
play a little
prepare.
bit. She never prepares. I prepare. She doesn't prepare. We do a little thing. And again, it wasn't our idea, but we kind of stole it, which is we say a word, person, place, or thing, and we say whether it's underrated, overrated, or just right. And we let you participate. So the first word today is timeshare. Is it overrated, underrated, or just right?
Overrated.
Stacy.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll start with Stacy.
I'm going to say overrated. I think it's a hoax.
Mhm.
I think it's a bunch of crap.
Sarah, what's your thoughts?
I think Stacy's right. It's a bunch of crap. I don't know why anybody would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always tell the story. We were in Disney World, we're in Florida, and hey, have some free tickets to Disney World, and you sit through this time, and it's probably the maddest I've ever gotten in my life. And it almost like I was held prisoner over timeshares.
They like drove you there, right?
I learned a huge lesson. Okay, gingerbread houses, Stacy.
Oh, I love Christmas time, so I'm going to say underrated.
Sarah.
Underrated.
We were putting one together last night.
Yes, we were doing one last night with the grandbaby. So
I love it.
Fun. All right. And then the next one is, we talked about this last night too, but Yeti cups. I'm curious if you
that's why the lid was sitting out this morning.
Yeah, I didn't take the lid. Underrated, overrated, or just right?
I'm gonna say overrated.
I think overrated.
I'm gonna just say like tumblers in general.
Yeah.
We have a bajillion.
Tumblers in general
just right. Just right.
You're thinking just right, Sarah.
I've got 20 on my floorboard just rolling around.
See, I'm not a coffee drinker, so that's why I don't. It's just not my jam.
I'm going with
20 on your floor.
I think overrated too. I think I see all these. We were laughing because there's this TikTok where this, like, basically you have this lady and her family brought out all her Yeti stuff, and it looked like a Yeti store.
It was amazing.
I mean, everywhere, all over the kitchen counter. I mean, there was hundreds of Yeti items there, and of course, Yeti piped in and said, "We're going to send you some more." So it was kind of cool.
Is that how that works? All right.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Do you have any for me? Or
yeah, I do.
All right, go ahead.
White Christmas.
Snow. You mean snow?
Yeah. Yes.
I think that's underrated. I would like to see some snow.
Me too. I agree.
So,
Sarah, what do you think?
Overrated.
Oh, you don't like snow?
I don't like cold. I just run from one building to the next.
Right.
Until about April.
There you go. All right.
Okay. Let's say team building.
Team building. I do think it's underrated. I think that, you hear the gimmicky stuff about go to this retreat and let's build teams, and that's good for a movie. But I think that really finding ways for your team to work better together. And I mean, you mentioned kind of at the beginning, Sarah, is that I think that, it's like we can all be a little bit nicer, and I think that any kind of team building that creates people to be a little bit nicer, I think works. Sarah, your thoughts?
Overrated.
She's over it. All right.
I don't know. Maybe I could do it better. So I've never been to a team building exercise where I'm just like, man, that was great. My life has changed. I'm going to be totally nicer to Todd in accounting.
I love it. Poor Todd. Poor Todd. All right. Last one.
Let's talk about wrapping Christmas gifts.
Wrapping. I think that's definitely overrated.
Oh,
I'm gonna say just right.
I would say
Burl's,
just right.
yeah. I love
Yeah.
a good Christmas package.
I'm a little bit still Scrooge when it comes to Christmas, but I'm learning.
So we did Christmas with all of Burl's kids last night, and his oldest, Cortland, we were talking about how his mother-in-law got him a hat that said "Bah Humbug." He said, "What does that mean?" what? You've never heard the phrase "Bah Humbug"? Cortland's 20. He just turned 27 this year, right? Did not know what "Bah Humbug" meant. Or
ask my kids that. I wonder if they know.
I know. Or it also did not know what Christmas stockings were.
Well, what?
I've learned a lot about Cortland. So yesterday I made him get out of bed. I was like, come here, I want to show you something. These are Christmas stockings. Yeah.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for taking your time out to visit with us.
Yes.
I have a lot of respect for what you do, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show. And I appreciate it very much. And you do. You have an amazing kids. Your mother was amazing whenever I met, and we're still connected through Facebook. And
I think she comments on our stuff quite a bit, doesn't she?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but there's definitely a connection with you and your family whenever you guys came to the ranch, and
it feels like you're a brother from another mother. My mother loves you. She does comment on your stuff all the time, and she said, "Did you know Burl got married?" And I was like, "Well, yes." She's hot, so yeah, you got a good one there. But I will and I know that you guys got to go. I'll make this quick. But the first time I ever met Burl, and this is kind of funny, I was at his ranch celebrating my 40th birthday, and there was nobody around. And he comes whisking in I guess what was like the, cafeteria or dining area. And he is this huge, huge guy. You don't expect it. And he was so nice to my children. But what I will remember the most is he's quietly freaking out in his home because he is going to take us fishing, but he is freaking out because he cannot find any of the tackle or anything. And he's just he's kind of like sweating and he's like embarrassed. And I
think he's
I
getting a
never
little
told him
red.
then, but I don't fish. So it was actually like, thank God you can't find the tackle for that.
That's awesome.
I love it. He is a big guy. He's 6'4"
great.
for those of you listening.
Yes, he's huge. So, and you're so tiny.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I hope you have a great day. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Maybe we'll get a meet up in person, and
that would be wonderful. When you guys are in Oklahoma City, come and find me.
Yes, we will.
Have a great day.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.